Alright, what's up everybody? Maik Wiedenbach here. Today's segment is my roadmap to gains. Sounds ambitious, I know. So just to backpedal, obviously the basis for this video is that most people don't make any progress in the gym, right? So any given gym you can come back half a year later or years later and you will find the same people, often wearing the same clothes, shockingly, doing the same things, looking the same or worse. So one thing that's amiss, and we talked about this in the past, is the diet, right? So most people can simply not stick to a nutritional regimen that will enable them to look better. So this video will not deal with that. So we're assuming that somebody has a decent diet and puts in the time and yet is still not getting anywhere. Why can that be? That is because bodybuilding is a sport that is coached upside down, meaning it's often just blindly emulated by whatever the biggest guy or the best girl at the time does. So you have somebody who looks good, has a great chest, that's what everybody does. You know, you have a girl with great legs or great shoulders, that's what people do. So the problem with that is that this approach leads to frustration. So my own example, my very sad example, you know, growing up in Germany, and back then we obviously only had one book, which was an encyclopedia on bodybuilding. That's where I got my knowledge from. So Arnold had great biceps, I didn't. He did barbell curls, that's what I should do, right? Wrong. It doesn't work for me because my forearms are too long and it leads to injuries and frustration. So the first thing people understand is that when you're trying to train or when you're training, what you're really trying to do is to contract a muscle to the max, right? So whether you're dieting or bulking, you must create maximum force to either grow or keep the muscle. That can only be achieved when you know the anatomy, meaning you must know the insertion and the origin. So let's say for the pecs, right, you have an insertion that's about here and the pec originate here. So bringing them together like so with a stiff arm creates maximum force. So loosely speaking, this would be somewhat of an upper pec motion, middle, and then lower. The conclusion is also that this isn't all that great, the bench press, right? So first you must master what the muscle does. So in terms of the bicep, what I didn't understand is that the insertion being up here and the origin here, I was moving them both when doing barbell curls. Whereas you need to lock in the insertion and then only one point moves, which is the origin. If both points of the muscle move, you cannot create maximum force. Therefore, you cannot grow the muscle. Which means basically when people are benching and they're in a motion where the shoulders go up and then the ribcage goes up, insertion and origin both in motion, henceforth the exercise will be at best substandard. So point one that you have to do is you have to figure out the anatomy of the muscle. So let's say you're doing lats, it inserts here, originates back here in sort of a fan, and you're bringing it together like so. When you have figured that out, you work on execution, meaning how does it feel? So, to take an example of the pecs, before you go into any sort of like hammer strengths, pec deck or whatever, you get a couple light flies in, you get that feel for the max contraction, or the example of the lats, like a stiff arm pull down, and then from there on, you can actually go into exercise selection. Exercise selection is for you. So in my case, for the longest time, I did the decline barbell press, the incline barbell press and all that kind of thing, because that's what you're supposed to do to get huge, right? But it never worked because my arms are too long, so I was pushing stuff up. Yeah, that's true, but it was mostly done with my delts and my tris, leading to inflamed shoulders, but no growth in the pecs. Once I realized that the pecs mainly do this, and I implemented more cable work and dumbbell work, think of a squeeze press that comes in a force like this, my pecs actually become somewhat respectable. So exercise selection comes after you have mastered the anatomy and how the muscle actually works. Once you have picked up your exercises, the next point would be the strength curve. We talked about this in the past, but most people only train the mid-range, and that's not enough. So let's say for the biceps, the mid-range is your regular curl. But then there's also the stretch position, would be your incline curl, and then the concentration, which would be cable behind the head, right? So for the pecs, it would be your regular chest press, let's say, be the mid-range, needless to say. But then the stretch would be, cable flies out here, and then the contraction could be in the pec deck. Why? Well, the strength curve goes like this. We're always strong in the middle, but if you get the bookends higher, everything gets better, and also your physique is healthier and less injury prone. So as an example, if you only train the mid-range for the pecs, you get that Quasimodo look, okay? Which is A, not very attractive, and B, makes you more prone to injuries. Whereas if you work in the strength and in the contracted position, you'll be have more open and more like the gladiator chest look, okay? So that's number 4. And when all that is in check, then you move on to progressive overload. So progressive overload is always being touted as the must do and you have to do it. And that's partly true because you have to progress. But if you're just progressing because you're moving stuff, you're simply not going anywhere, okay? So you have to think, did I master the exercise? Did I cover the strength curve? Now you can add more weight. So if you just pound the muscle to pound it, you'll only get injured. So, back pattern. Here's your checklist. I want to improve this muscle. 1, what's the anatomy? 2, do I get the feel for it? 3, pick the exercises that work for me. 4, cover the strength curve. 5, now I move on to progressive overload. And from there on, the gains will be yours, okay? Thanks guys, Mike out.